Hello there. You join me from the middle of a forest. Nice. I am in the heart of Macclesfield Forest today. Just fancied stepping out of my comfort zone a little bit more today. By walking in the middle of nowhere. Quick background sort of story. I live for this place. And I always have done. Ooh, there's a den. I live for this place and I always have done. I've been coming here since I was a little kid. I've always loved it, but since sort of my head's been playing up a little bit, sort of worrying about my heart and death and all of that good stuff, I've really avoided coming out into nature, especially on my own, because the fear crops up as to, you know, what happens if I just have a cardiac arrest right here and die, or if something bad happens, like, what am I going to do? I should give you a little bit of a backstory as well. So, a while ago, I was going through some difficult shit with a lady, and in the end we ended up sort of splitting up. We weren't necessarily dating as such, but we weren't talking anymore. And I tried to sort of resolve that issue by doing some pretty difficult trail runs. For someone who's got no trail run experience, I would come up here, and there's a place called Shutlinslow, which is like a massive hill which sticks out the top of Macclesfield Forest. And I did a trail run up there, and I noticed that when I got towards the summit, I had a really bad bout of cardiac arrhythmia, and this is before I was worried about my heart. I just had a complete and utter, like, solid 5 minutes of just my heart going AWOL. It was very strange. And if I had had my phone on me at the time, I would have called an ambulance. But my phone was dead. So I kind of just lay there and just accepted that I might just die. And it was terrifying. And kind of since then, I've always had this fear of, if I overexert myself, I'll end up in that position again. And it's terrifying, it really is. And it stopped me from coming out and doing things like this. So at the moment, I'm really trying to push myself to get out into the outdoors again and sort of face that fear. Oops. And, you know, test the theory, as it were, that death is imminent all the time. And, you know, like, nobody knows I'm up here. I'm on my own, literally in the middle of nowhere. And the plan is to get to the top of that hill up there and back down again, hopefully without dying. So if you want to join me for that, want to talk some shit and have an existential crisis, feel free. If not, enjoy the rest of your day. So this part is pretty steep. This is the time where I start to worry about my heart. It's when I get to bits like this, where I suddenly have to exert myself and I can feel my heart beating faster than it usually would. That's when the fear takes over. But we'll test it. A bit more background as to sort of like why I am this way. I'll cover this in another video maybe sometime. But when I was younger, I got really sick. I had whether it was food poisoning or something, I don't know. I was about 13 at the time, on holiday in Wales. And since then, it made me terrified of sickness, specifically like vomiting. It's called emetophobia. And I really struggled with it, and it kind of metastasized. It grew into eventually being a fear of going anywhere other than being at home, which is agoraphobia. Now, I struggled with agoraphobia from the age of about 14 and still to this day, but it was worse between sort of like 16 and 17, and I really struggled with it. Couldn't really go outside, couldn't go anywhere that wasn't home, especially couldn't go abroad, and it was really terrifying, and it ruined my confidence. And at a similar time, I was going to college, and I started getting bullied at the age of 17 by some lads in my course who could kind of sense the weakness in me, but I was struggling and I couldn't stand up for myself for the life of me. I'm a fit lad. Like, I know how to fight. I did jiu-jitsu and kickboxing for ages. I just couldn't do anything about it. And it, that experience of, having to fight a full-on mental battle to get out of the house is terrifying. And then having to deal with what I was dealing with in college really kind of drove the nail into the coffin. And it kind of gave me this view of myself that I was kind of a weak-minded, feeble, scared, ratty little weasel. And I really believed it. Like, I saw myself very similar to the dad from Rick and Morty. I've forgotten his name. Jerry. That's kind of how I saw myself. And it ruined my self-esteem. Couldn't talk to girls. Couldn't really do anything. Wasn't going to the gym. Skinny as anything. Wasn't eating. Developed a kind of eating disorder just because I couldn't fathom having to be sick and what I was eating. So I just wouldn't eat. So I wouldn't get calories in. I got very, very skinny and I really struggled. And then sort of since then I've been to various counsellors. I've really been trying to push myself out of my comfort zone, and what got me through that specific period of agoraphobia, when it was at its worst, was something called exposure therapy. Now, exposure therapy, if you've not heard of it, is essentially where, say you're scared of spiders, you are going to sit in a room full of spiders until you are no longer scared of spiders anymore. It sounds horrible, but it's not quite as extreme as that. The idea is you will gradually expose yourself to more and more of what it is that you're terrified of in order to prove to your nervous system, to prove to your subconscious that thing is not a danger and it's not necessary to be scared of it. And that is, I tell you, it is terrifying. Let me find a spot, I'll explain. Well and truly in the middle of nowhere now. But one of the best views of anywhere in the Peak District is just ahead of us. So I'll show you it. And then I'll stop and chat about exposure therapy. Whew. Getting warm though. There we go. This is the summit of Nesset Hill, Macclesfield Forest, the Peak District National Park. Whew. On a day like today, you can see all the way across to the hills of Wales, Snowdonia. I hope you can hear me because it's really windy up here. Now as good a time as ever to talk about what it is. So, exposure therapy is essentially this method of getting people to face the fear, where you gradually expose yourself to what it is that you're scared of. Imagine you're scared of lifts, you're terrified of lifts, which I used to be. What you would do is you would stand with the counsellor, or you'd set a goal and you go, okay, I can't go in a lift, but I can stand near a lift. Can you stand near a lift? Well, I don't know. So let's try it. So then you would go and stand near a lift, and you'd feel the tension in your stomach. You'd feel nervous, but you just wait until that fear subsides, and then you end up at a point where you are now able to get in a lift and ride a lift, which you would have never thought possible before. But because you worked up in gradual steps to the point where you're able to do that thing that you were so terrified of doing before, you've then gotten braver. That fear doesn't go away, but you've overcome that fear, which has given you. It gives you the self-confidence to know that you can overcome difficult things, especially things which you think are impossible to overcome. For me, I was terrified of leaving the house and getting sick and not being able to get back. So I stopped going and getting my hair cut, stopped going to the dentist. I really struggled at school. I didn't get the bus, I never got public transport, and I wouldn't go anywhere if my parents would not be able to drop anything and come and pick me up. So this process, so what I'm recording here is me basically doing that. I've now got a new fear which I'm struggling with, which I'll talk about in much greater depth in another video maybe. Yeah, hopefully if any of you guys struggle with anything similar, we'll be able to sort of have a conversation about it and work through it together in the least cringy way possible. What a better place to do it than it. It is absolutely fucking bolting. My ears are freezing. Damn. I hope you can hear that as well, because it is windy. So coming up in front of me now is Shutlinslow, which is the hill where I had that heart episode. And I've got the camera facing the wrong way, but it is that one there at the end of the trail, and the camera does not do it justice because it is absolutely beautiful. It's known as the Matterhorn of the Peaks because it kind of looks like it. Let me turn the camera around so you can see, because it is absolutely stunning. There she is, looming ominously on the horizon. Slightly terrifying. So bold and majestic. Shut up, man. I'm talking shit. So another issue, among many, that I tend to struggle with, this is more recently, is a fear that I'll just pass out. Which, again, sounds ridiculous. But it's terrifying. And it kind of comes about from... I didn't realise until relatively recently that I can't have gluten. I've got something called ataxia, which is basically, I'll take a second. I got something called ataxia, which is essentially where I think I'm paraphrasing, but your body sees gluten as a pathogen. It releases white blood cells to apprehend that pathogen, but those white blood cells attack your brain, and it basically fucks up your coordination and your cognitive ability for a while. And yeah, I really struggled with it for about a year. Wherever I would eat something, I would then, God, look how pretty it is. Whenever I would eat something, I'd feel drunk afterwards. And it would, like, I was working at a coffee shop at the time. I was managing the shop, and quite often I'd be on my own. And I'd have customers talking to me, and I just could not hold a conversation. I was knocking things over, couldn't listen to them. But the difficult part was driving home when you feel like that. It was dangerous, man. It's really scary. Now, I now no longer eat gluten at all. I feel a hell of a lot better. But I do have these sort of episodes where when I'm eating, as soon as I stop eating and then I start to feel hungry again, it's not like a gradual kind of thing. It's like I'll suddenly feel violently hungry. But that hunger kind of shows itself as feeling really faint and dizzy and sort of like lacking coordination. Oh my God, this is completely frozen. Oh my God, that is so satisfying. Enough of that. Yeah, so I find that when I don't have food with me and I start to feel those feelings, immediately the fear comes over, the anxiety comes over, and I convince myself that I'm just going to pass out. And then when I'm alone in a place like this, very similar to when I was up there running, like, there's nothing you can do. There's no one that's going to save you. And kind of all of a sudden you catastrophise. I catastrophise. I freak out and think, oh, this is the end. I'm going to die. No one's going to be able to save me. What am I going to do? How are my family going to feel? And then suddenly it goes from feeling shit because I'm hungry to full-blown panic attack, not knowing how to handle myself, not knowing what to do. And it really ruins it because as a person, I love being out here. I want to go travelling. I want to go and live my life. I want to go and see Australia. I want to go to New Zealand. I want to go travel. And that fear, as silly as it sounds, that fear of just passing out and stopping working, essentially, stops me from being able to go and do those things. And then I will actively avoid going out into places like this because of the fear of, you know, what if I pass out? What if I get dizzy? What if I just go into a coma and die? It's the same thought process that goes behind the fear of the heart. You know, maybe I'll just have a heart attack. It's like, maybe I'll just go into a coma. Which is, again, it's so ridiculous when I say it like that, but it is what it is. That's what I worry about. And I'm not in control of that. However, and I'm paraphrasing, as Marcus Aurelius once said, I think it was Marcus Aurelius, you can only control what you can control. You can't control situations out of your control, but you can manage how you deal with those situations. That's within your control. Now for me, that means either hiding from those issues and listening to that fear and not doing the things that I want to do, or feeling the fear and doing it anyway and exposing myself to it the way that I used to do. Whoop. So that's kind of what this is. Oh damn. How ominous. How dark. It's the kind of place the Blair Witch would chill. but I've got a stick, so we're alright. I'll fucking have her. I'm going to continue the rest of this walk now. I'll catch up when I get to the bottom, have a brew, and yeah, enjoy it. Enjoy the silence. God, that's so cringe. Enjoy the nature. All right. Woo! There's nothing more masculine than going for a really scenic piss in the middle of nowhere. Really boosts testosterone, you know. It's good. Someone else can have that. You're a kind and noble steed. Kind and noble stick. What am I on about, man? Back at the old van now. Gonna drive a little bit down the road to where there's like a big reservoir. It's a really pretty spot. Thought I'd go there for a brew rather than sit here in the dark. Time for a brew, I think. So far, as I'm sure you can tell, I haven't really got a plan for these videos. It's more kind of I'm just going to go out and verbal diarrhea into the camera, which I hope you don't mind. But I don't care if you don't mind it, I'm just doing it anyway. Loosely speaking, what I want to do is track my progress through exposing myself to things that currently are difficult to do, with the intention of hopefully bringing awareness to this whole idea of sort of acrophobia and dealing with negative thoughts and health anxiety and all that stuff. It's something I've dealt with for a long time, and it's something that I know other people deal with, but nobody really likes to talk about it, especially dudes, because you don't want to be seen as a pussy. You don't want to be seen as being scared of, you know, going outside and doing all these things. So yeah, I'm just going to try and plan my journey through this difficult period. Record it, track it, and hopefully spurt some conversations about it with people who have got similar issues. God damn, this is a nice spot. Without any milk for my tea, which is a bit deaders, but we'll do a black tea, why not? Have a health cleanse. Damn. Right, I'm going to enjoy my brew. I'm going to finish off chilling here. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to work tomorrow. So I'll see you when I'm looking at you.